And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Notre Dame wins the Sugar Bowl. We're going to be breaking that down and also power ranking the 4 remaining teams in the college football playoff. Sean, BetOnline, do the damn read.
BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. Stop barking orders at me, please, and thank you.
Took you a second there.
I just wanted to get into it before you derailed me. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. They got all the sports. They got the NHL. Get ready. Ovi's breaking the record this year. He broke his leg, and he's taken down the great one. I don't care. I'm betting on an Ovi goal scorer all in February and March, and I know hockey goes into July, which is embarrassing, but I think he does get it this year. Head to BetOnline today. Tail me on the Ovechkin record-breaking goals all season. Don't forget to use promo code BLEAV. That's BLEAV for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here.
I had a very long night last night because of having to do my production shift for the College Football Inquirer. Very lucid show is about to happen here talking about Notre Dame. And I'm glad that we're in a good situation, that I'm not just sitting here talking about Notre Dame after another disappointing loss. I'm a little disenfranchised, Sean, by the general tone and walking back. Actually, it's not even walking back. It's goalpost moving by SEC fans, by some LSU fans, about Notre Dame fans relishing the experience that just occurred. The victory that they had that in my lifetime, only 26 years old, 11 years of Brian Kelly losing every single time that they had a game like this. To actually see the ability to beat an SEC team that everybody coming into the week said that Gunnar Stockton was going to be better than Carson Beck and that they were going to dominate Notre Dame up front, that this game was going to be over, that the SEC would find a way to prevail no matter what the circumstance. And all of the sudden, it is, well, that's kind of sad that that's one of the greatest things that Notre Dame's done in the last 30 years. That's kind of sad that beating a team with their backup quarterback in is the greatest accomplishment. I don't care. This is a victory lap worth taking. They see an effectively beatable opponent in Penn State that is very similarly structured to what Notre Dame has. But what they just did is something that Brian Kelly could never do. If that was Brian Kelly, damn it, that was a freaking loss. I stand by this. I don't care if anyone gets annoyed that, oh, why are you bringing up Brian Kelly? It is significant in the scope of this program, knowing where they were for the last 10 years and where they got to right now.
The SEC and Georgia in this discourse continues to be the scorned, turned down hot girl, where you could be very polite and say, I'm just not feeling it. I'm good. This is it for me. And then she says, okay, your loss. You are ugly anyway. You're broke anyway. And they start really lashing out. And that's what we're seeing from the SEC, who has been the hot girl that everyone's chasing. And now we got one left in their first year in the SEC with Texas. How embarrassing for the blue chips, for Georgia, for Alabama, for everybody that's been just hemming and hawing about the SEC being so dominant. The goalpost moving didn't even occur in this game as much as it did in the game that followed, where Ole Miss beat a Duke, where they were a 17.5-point favorite.
Wait, I was a little too disconnected at the time. Was there victory lapping?
There was. You know what?
Stop it. Don't tell me that there was.
There was.
Who?
Ole Miss should have been in. Oh, Jackson Dart should be considered among Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward level.
Oh, wait. Okay,
hold on. This is what's spurring the absolute gall of the SEC faithful.
There's no way that happened.
Dude, they're painting their own silver linings.
I haven't checked Twitter since 11 o'clock last night, except for my notifications. So when I was being a problematic dickhead and I was going and tweeting about how Michigan, without 4 potential first-round picks in their game, threw for 50 yards and beat Alabama, when South Carolina, that had Lenora Sellers and had Nick Harbor and had Dylan Stewart. We're down a couple of guys that were important for their success this year, but still had their very athletic nucleus of young players against an Illinois team that had Luke Altmaier, and that was it. Lost, I think, at least one lineman entered the portal. The victory lapping there was considered to be ridiculous. It was considered to be incredulous. That how dare you state that the SEC is down this year because of the result of those bowl games when they're just meaningless bowl games. You're telling me that they're victory lapping on a 9-3 Duke team that didn't have their starting freaking quarterback that was literally all of their success? You better not be making this up, man, because I'm going to go fucking scorched earth here.
We're going to leave maybe a person unnamed, but I'd like you to check a Twitter DM real quick.
No.
I am just saying this is some of the discourse that has been churning out.
I thought it was going to be Blake. I was ready for Blake. I love you. If you sent me a tweet from Blake about Ole Miss, I would have called Blake right now on the show, and we would have had a conversation.
Your agita with Blake Ruffino, was so hilarious yesterday during the Notre Dame game, where you're like, dude, I just need him to stop tagging me. It's getting too serious in this game. Notre Dame, because you're just an absolute. I couldn't be out in the room with you for the second half. I refuse.
Oh, is that why you
I'm like, I'm not going to get involved with his situation here because you're too invested.
Yeah, you were trying to talk a little too much about work, and I was like, I was like, this is I almost turned to you and said, this is not the time. I'm not even exaggerating. I was a second about to him, like, man, we got to have this conversation tomorrow.
I read the room. I said, you
could have stayed. I didn't mind you staying. The vibes were fine.
I couldn't have stayed. I would have kept yapping. I would have.
You didn't want to be there for my excitement.
Well, I was in the restroom. You had plenty of excitement. I said he's going to start cranking it up to 11. And I liked hearing your narration throughout the game and your reactions. And then the animals next door, the Notre Dame fans, were I guess their feed is like 5 seconds faster than ours. So they would pop and then you would pop. Like on the kick return touchdown, they started screaming. I
should have gone over there.
Yeah, you should have. That would have been great. I don't need to be in that room with all those Notre Dame fans, but it was a good win. It was an absolute good win. And Notre Dame, I don't know. I'm going to do the yearly highlight video for the show for the season. And I'm going to go back to September after the incident. I'm going to go back and look at the game plan that we laid out. They followed it to a T.
Okay, as long as you don't go around pulling things that I said.
Look, maybe
you better not.
Those might get featured in a year-end bombs and flubs or cold takes or whatever. But
piece of work.
It was.
I have walked back that, and I have apologized to Marcus Freeman 100 times.
I saw you made a big public apology, weepy apology on Twitter. But I get it. I've been very weepy at times also on social media.
Yeah, your team sucks.
Yeah, they do suck. They're awful. And now I'm relying on the Saints and Panthers this week to get me into the playoffs. But they did everything right. After taking the worst loss of the season, they did every single thing right. They locked in on defense. They played so hard on defense. I will continue to cheerlead this Notre Dame team because of how they play. They hit the hell out that forced fumble in the first quarter, lighting up the Georgia running back in the red zone. Perfect hit. And they're coached well. They really are a well-coached team. Do they throw it too much? Probably, for how the offense is. I also had to leave because I couldn't hear you keep saying run the ball, stop throwing the ball when they're converting first downs, but it is what it is. It's a good team. They deserve to win, and they were the better team that game. In that game,
I think like the one thing that stands out is just there's the general tone, especially coming into this year from SEC fans. Oh, Notre Dame doesn't really recruit well enough, and they don't really have those guys to be a playoff team. But what actually ended up being the case is, one, they have the athletes at linebacker. They've got the most athletic linebacking core in college football outside of Ohio State, probably. But the craziest part is like they have the most depth. You know, all you hear, as I'm mentioning here, all you hear constantly is like, oh, you just don't have those premier guys on your D line. They were able to dig deep. Howard Cross goes out of the game for a spurt. You bring in different guys. Riley Mills is done. You bring in different guys. You're down Jordan Botelho and Boubacar Traore. Different guys step up. Junior Tuialamaka has a freaking huge play. Like the fact that Notre Dame this is what's the most satisfying about it, is that Notre Dame ultimately is the biggest trump card against all of the narratives that people have used to shut down them and also the Midwestern teams from being consistent powers in the sport. I'm not going to pretend this is my take. Dan Wetzel on the Inquirer said this yesterday, and I think it's a very great point that now that the transfer portal and NIL are as prevalent as they are, the Midwest has more money than people realize. The flow of money and ability to recruit the right guys for specific rosters, mid to high level 4 stars, to build out that depth, and then to get the occasional premier guy like Michigan just did with Bryce Underwood, and Ohio State bringing in Jeremiah Smith, and Notre Dame bringing in Bryce Young, who is going to be the next premier 5-star edge rusher that Notre Dame hasn't had in a very long time. There is a lot more money than I think people realize, because before in the past, let's not pretend that there wasn't money being pushed around in the Southern Conferences.
Yes.
But the $50,000 you get thrown to play at Alabama on your recruiting visit, which we know of. We have talked to guys that have told us that there have been bags waiting for them on recruiting visits. It's not news that anyone who's played the sport does not know that didn't. It happened. It freaking happened is what I meant to say.
Consistently.
But now that there's millions of dollars that are able to be openly thrown around by teams that were afraid and reluctant to do so because they felt that it violated the sanctity of the tradition of their programs, now that they're able to rely on said money and also the branding of eventual TV revenue, I really do think that there is a shift back to spread dominance, where it's not just all the SEC, that there will be years where the best team is Ohio State, or it ends up being Michigan, and a team like Penn State can be more prominent. A team like Notre Dame could be more consistently competitive.
Yeah, the horse blinders aren't on anymore, and I think it takes massive shifts, which I've been pulled into kicking and screaming, but it takes massive shifts in the college football landscape to understand, hey, the SEC isn't the only conference with big stadiums. There are schools where they're fitting 80,000, 100,000 in there. And that means something. These programs in the Big Ten are legit. Notre Dame being an independent, an interesting wrinkle in the CFP also. I thought
everybody criticized, like, oh, you're not making that much money. The amount of money that they're making, they don't have to share.
I know. It's crazy. And you know what? That's maybe a good trade-off for we don't get a bye ever until we go into a conference. I don't know what you would. You can keep on scheduling cupcake schedules, win 11 games, and then make the CFP because you're Notre Dame. It's actually probably the perfect scenario, because you guys, the Notre Dame faithful, will keep on pretending like you're smarter and braver than everybody, whereas we know the truth. But you make the CFP, you win some games, everyone's happy, you make a bunch of money. It's a big win. It's a big day, and I can't wait to see Penn State stomp a mud hole in you guys. That's going to be awesome when they are really marching down the field.
I was texting with Ryan about this. Here's where we're like, I'm genuinely afraid.
Oh?
I think they beat Penn State. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a path for them to beat Penn State. And there's going to be a lot of happiness and joy and hype going into the national championship. And this isn't your typical 2 top teams remaining. I'm so worried, man, that if they just go out there and they get splattered, just worked by an Ohio State team that is seeing red on every single snap, I am going to go into hiding if that happens, which I almost would kind of rather they lose to Penn State and Penn State is the victim.
And then you just kind of,
I don't want to be the victim.
Yeah, you guys
got no, that's crazy, man. My mentions are going to be awful on that day if Notre Dame doesn't win or play competitively.
Your optimal situation is losing to Penn State in a tight game on a crazy on a crazy call where you can complain all off season, and you can play the hypothetical game yourself and say, oh, we would have had it if this didn't happen, if the muff punt or the incidental contact on a kicker was called or was not called. Like, you guys need a controversial call to carry you into the offseason to prevent any shame or embarrassment that will come in a national championship if you do make it there. That is astute. You are just accept your 1 win or 2 wins. That's a good run. That's a good run, man.
Screw you.
So now you're. Oh, you know what? You can't win here. I can't win in the conversation with the Madhouse.
Let's power rank the teams that are remaining. The best team remaining of the 4 it's
Ohio State.
No brainer.
Yeah. Clear, saw it on paper, saw what they did to Oregon. That's still the best win in the CFP that we've seen. It might be the most impressive win in the entire college football season. Oregon was legit. Ohio State punishing them. I mean, absolutely brutalizing them. That is a huge statement. And, you know, I don't think they fear Texas at all. I think that they came out of break after their incident with a completely different mentality that I didn't think they had capable. I didn't think Ryan Day was a leader capable enough to rally this team after such a devastating loss. But color me shocked. They are, and they're still legit.
Ohio State, without a doubt, is that best team remaining. And it stems from the roster construction that they have all this talent, but they were never really hitting their full stride. Now they are. This is, and it's not even close to the level of separation between them and the rest of the playoff field if they continue to play this way. The fact that they know and realize this is not only how we win games, but how we dominate them by just being relentless at the start of the game until the final whistle of attacking downfield and getting the ball to Jeremiah Smith in space and just letting him go to work. They are on this insane trajectory, the way that we thought that they could have been at the beginning of the year. I don't think that there's a debate on them being number one. The number 2 team remaining is...
Notre Dame is the number 2 team.
Wow, look at the maturation on Sean.
Notre Dame. What are you talking? I have been pulling the rope for Notre Dame.
We're gonna get you some. If Notre Dame
season.
wins Penn State, can we get you a Notre Dame hat?
Oh, I would happily wear a Notre Dame hat, and then we will watch the championship game together as Notre Dame buddies and cheer as loud as we can. And we
will go to the Shannon, which is a fake Notre Dame bar.
You want to go with the locals?
Well, so I told you about this. It was the Shannon, which is a bar in Hoboken, which anyone who's in Hoboken knows that it's the weirdest vibe of any bar that you're going to go into. There's got this weird back room. It's very strange. It was advertised as, it keeps getting advertised by the Alumni Network of North Jersey that it is the Notre Dame watch bar of Hoboken. And we went there with I went there with my dad to watch the Army game. They didn't even really have the game on. There was one guy who was cheering for Army, and that was it. And he didn't stop cheering and left pretty quickly the way that game started going. So we can be the only 2 Notre Dame fans there. All right, why is Notre Dame the number 2 team remaining in the playoff?
You know, they are they have a better quarterback than Penn State and Texas. They have a very good running game when they decide to use it. The offensive line, it's actually like the quietest discourse I've heard about Notre Dame's offensive line in years because they're good. They're really good. They move bodies. They protect their quarterback well. It is a good line up front that I wouldn't want to face. That's going to be a challenge all game for Penn State. It's going to be a challenge all game for whoever else they have to play because they are so sound there. And the defense, they rally, they hit, they swarm tackle. They hit so hard. They hit harder than all the other teams. Penn State, I thought, hit hard. And then I watch Notre Dame play every week. And they just light teams up. I love it. I just love the intensity that they bring on defense that these other 3 teams don't. Jack Sawyer tries to bring the boom with Ohio State, but
I mean, he does.
It's not the level that Notre Dame defense does.
I push back slightly on that. I think Ohio State's defense has been smacking dudes, but I agree with you. Number 2 for me is Notre Dame, and there's some volatility to this where they're either number 2 or they're number 4. Because when you live off of turnover luck, it's kind of a dangerous, shaky world to live in. But Notre Dame has not had fake turnover luck. Notre Dame is a team that manufactures turnovers and big special teams plays in huge sacks. They're living off of a world which is really rare to create in college football, where your defense just straight up wins games. So that deserves to place them at number 2. The athleticism at key positions on defense keeps them afloat and alive in any matchup against any of these remaining teams, even if their offense is completely removed, which quite literally happened against Georgia. They could not consistently move the ball, and all it took was a strip sack to set up Notre Dame with a short field that aggressively shifted the momentum of the game in Notre Dame's favor to the point where they were able to eventually close it out. The 3rd best team in the college football playoff remaining is...
Texas is the 3rd best team remaining. And it is simply...
I don't agree with that.
I didn't expect you to. But they continue to fail upwards. They continue to find ways to get by. They have a shock to their system versus Arizona State. I really like the development of Matthew Golden. He has been a great receiving option for this team. I'm not lauding Ewers here. I promise you, I'm not lauding him as a world beater, but he is a quarterback. I still don't think Drew Allar is a quarterback. And to win a college football national championship, I need the guy running the offense to be a quarterback-minded quarterback. Allar is athlete that can throw the ball. Quinn Ewers, even in his mistakes, is trying to make quarterback-like decisions. And when he's on, he is on. So I am taking the off chance that Ewers and the Longhorns could catch fire, opposed to Penn State, who I feel like at times I've seen their ceiling on offense, which is good, but it stems from the running backs and it stems from the defense, which is great. But at this level of the CFP, I have to go with the guy that I know is a quarterback.
It's funny when you talk about these two teams because they're similar in the sense that they don't play complete games. They're really inconsistent where, especially the last two rounds, they started similarly, they finished similarly. This past game for both of them, they started really hot, they fell asleep, and then they woke back up and were able to finish in a really just tricky, tight spot. More so for Texas, Penn State was in an open position to just kind of take away because the talent separation was there. But if that was a better opponent, if they played Arizona State, they might have lost.
Yeah.
I still think that Penn State is number 3, but to talk about Texas, the reason why I can't get behind them is that I just have so much fear that how bad the run game is right now and how actually it's not even inconsistent. It's frankly non-existent when teams are able to match up with them. If you can't run the football in college football, you're done. That has been their downfall. It has completely taken the air out of their offense in a number of matchups. It allowed for Arizona State to get back into the game because even despite having a significant lead and their defense dominating in the first quarter, they couldn't slow the game down and take it away. They had to revert to throwing the ball on third down, which led to punts, which led to a late interception by Quinn Ewers. Your number 4 team, though, in the playoff field is Penn State.
Penn State, of course, yes. And I just need them to prove it to me. I need James Franklin to prove it to me. The SMU win, they were expected. The Boise State win, they were expected. Now they are in a game versus Notre Dame where they're 1.5-point dogs. So we're basically at a pick 'em. We are basically at, you guys are even matched. Notre Dame has momentum. You guys have momentum. I'm not going to bank on Penn State being able to continuously go down the field and score on Notre Dame. Whereas I think if Notre Dame finds some balance and is able to, I guess, unlock Riley Leonard earlier in the game, they have a shot at putting up a crooked number early. Whereas Penn State, we know they stall, and when they start stalling, it is bad. It's ugly. They do have weapons. Tyler Warren's great, but Notre Dame's linebackers, as you noted earlier, super athletic. They're rangy. They're long. I think they're going to give Warren fits. Thanks. I think they're going to give Warren fits all game. And Allar could be in hell. He could really be in hell in this game. And I just think that I just don't know if James Franklin can do it. I'm not ready to turn the leaf on James Franklin being a guy that can win now the eventual bigger one.
Forget how they match up for their upcoming opponent. I have to go with Penn State 3, Texas 4, because when Andy Kotelnicki isn't overthinking the game plan and he's running the ball and he's actually leaning on their 2 biggest playmakers and creating success for them, their defense is good enough to just keep the game low scoring. The fact that I know that I can rely on, and they know their identity, rely on, if it's a close ball game, Nick Singleton can eventually break free. Kaytron Allen can power through a tackler to pick up a first down. Having that in their bag is far more advantageous for me than having to think, if this is a 1-score ball game or it's tied, I would fear for my life for a whole quarter that Quinn Ewers would mess up and have a turnover. Drew Allar is inconsistent with his ball placement at times, but he at least has something to turn to. When the offense is sputtering and slowing down like it did against Arizona State, Quinn has to do too much. And he is the king of when he has to do too much, he does way too much and he hurts them.
If I'm playing devil's advocate here, I've never seen James Franklin scream into a kicker's face for 30 seconds before a possible game.
He didn't scream into a kicker's face. That was And I have witnessed those exchanges before. That was one of the stupidest things that Sark could have done, putting his hands on his shoulders and talking to him and saying, basically, giving him words of affirmation like, you're going to hit this kick. This is going to be great. Don't talk to the kicker.
What an absolute moron.
Kickers are such fragile creatures. All they're doing is thinking about, let Buddy go out there and just completely dissociate from the situation. The less that man is thinking about just breathing, I want him to suffocate to death from not forgetting how to breathe. I just want him to go out there and just kind of waltz out there and like, oh, look, here's a nice little kick. I'm going to hit this ball. No, I won the game for us. No, you just told him, you got this. This is going to be really important.
No matter what, win or lose, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Hit or miss, you're going to be.
Stark's an idiot for that.
I'm sure so many shows have made this comparison already, but you see it in baseball. Managers don't talk to the pitcher when they have a no-no going in the 7th inning, 8th inning. Nobody talks to the pitcher because it's such a fickle situation to have the game in your hands in such a divisive way, in such an important moment. You just leave the guy alone. Pitchers are such head cases, similar to kickers, where you just leave them alone. They're weirdos. They operate on a different wavelength than every other athlete. Leave them the hell alone. I haven't seen Franklin do that, so maybe they should have the edge.
That's going to be it from us at Joe DeLeone, at Sanderson Radio, at Hack City Pod. Rate, review, subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you later.